Hey, this is Mo Lunsford at Union Grove Lumber Studios.
And this is the Shed Geek. We want to welcome you to today's episode. Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Shed Geek podcast. And looking forward to today's podcast. But I got to tell you, man, this trip has been a short trip. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday event, running out, getting 3 of them before the expo. That way I've got plenty of content and things to put out. And, man, I'm so disappointed because, I don't know if yesterday's show's ever going to make it to light, and I've been stressing on it. And, guys, after 250 of these, it's still, I say it's easy to make mistakes, but, the equipment has failed me here, and I got to go searching for this file, and I can't find this SD card. And I'm like, oh, man, I really felt like that was an excellent podcast, and now I'm sad, that it might not go out. But today's a new day. And an old friend on the show, I'll tell you what, I think you'll do best to introduce yourself. So, Brian, if you will, maybe your name, your business, just kind of a little bit about who you are, what you do, so people know what you do in the shed industry.
Yeah, so my name is Brian Cope with Patriot Portable Buildings. I'm a premier dealer, do carports, trailers, portable buildings. From Mayfield, Kentucky, grew up in Grace County, been around the shed business for many years. Started building sheds back in the early 2000s, built over at Dirksen Portable Buildings, and started hauling for Graceland, hauled for them for many years, and then I had the opportunity to work and sell and haul for Premier Portable Buildings. Been with them since 2016, I think. Been had a couple of sales lots since about 2018, and pretty much here I am. Like I said, I've built, hauled, and sold buildings, and sheds has been a big part of my life for at least the last 25 years.
I kind of feel like if you grow up in the Mayfield area, Graves County area, it's easy to say sheds have sort of been a part of my world for a long time.
Yeah, so we lived for years in right there in Lowe's, Kentucky, which was about 2 miles from the main Dirksen manufacturer. So, sheds have been a part of my life. Even before I got into sheds, I was all around the shed business and around the people, so. I'd say half the people in that area has some kind of relationship with sheds.
Yeah, it's even just sitting here reminiscing with you, talking about your history in sheds and mine, and you've been in it way longer. It's nice to hear some common names just show up in conversation and kind of revisit experiences we've had and things like that with them, and some thank yous and things like that to those guys who've come before us. But yeah, you've been in it for a long time. So you got your start building. Is that where you started?
Yeah. So yeah, that's it kind of happened with I guess you would say there was a guy there. He actually was kind of privately contracted out through the builders that were at Dirksen. And he had a shop there, and he asked me if I wanted to come in and work and help him, this, that, and other. Well, I ended up buying him out, just building, certain parts for him, like the gables and different things for the builders that were over at Dirksen. And then that grew and grew, and I started building for more builders and doing more things. So, and that was back in the early 2000s. I did that for, a couple of years there. And then, like I said, had the opportunity to buy some trucks, trailers, and started hauling for Graceland Portable Buildings, and did that up until right at 2016 to 2018. I was also doing some help for Premier, and then I had the opportunity to come up here. So I'd say, 2000, 2001 till now, I've been doing something in sheds. Yeah.
Well, and you came to East Tennessee here, so are we technically in Knoxville address?
Knoxville, yeah. Not Knoxville zip, but in that area. I tell everybody Knoxville because we're about 15 minutes away from Knoxville. Yeah. And then I've also got a place down in Athens, which is close to Chattanooga.
Okay.
Down in that area, yeah.
Well, this works out perfect, man, because, who wouldn't want to live in East Tennessee? I mean, Knoxville and the surrounding areas are absolutely gorgeous. Yeah. I've been all over the country, and it's beautiful here. Yeah,
I always said I'd never leave Western Kentucky, never leave Grace County. Growing up, grew up on a farm. We worked in tobacco. I said I'd never leave the farm, but if I was going to move anywhere besides there, it would be here.
If people want to know the split, this is what's funny. I have a buddy whose stepdad, man, you're his long lost son. I swear. You guys talk, look, sound alike, all that good stuff. This is what's funny. Me and you were talking about this in the beginning. If you really want to understand the difference in where Illinois meets Kentucky, me and Brian are about as good example as that as could possibly be. I've been told when I go north, I sound southern. I've been told whenever I go south, I sound northern.
Yep.
I have no home, basically, you know. So what's funny is, but like I love hearing you say you worked in tobacco.
Tobacco. Yeah.
Because to me that's a perfect example of like that split. Me and you were joking about this. It's like a whole new world entering over that bridge into Illinois versus Kentucky. And the guys who are local understand that.
Yeah.
But for the rest of the nation or anybody listening, they're probably like, what are you talking about? Man, when you cross that bridge on I-24 in Illinois, it becomes a different world. We even sound different.
Yeah. Like I told you, the short time I worked at U.S. Food Service, we had a lot of people from Illinois.
Yeah.
That worked over there, and I could tell. I said, "Hey, I know exactly where you're from. You don't even have to introduce yourself. That hey, I'm from across the bridge there. I know exactly where you're from." And it's so weird because it's 10 minutes away from each other. You know?
It is,
and people talk different, but yeah.
Well, it's you know, Southern Illinois kind of had its fair share of shed business.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean the Cardinal Mules there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of RTO presence and things like that. There's some different things that have come out of there. So it's hard to know what's branched off of each other, but it's served the industry well, and it's just like this little mecca of like shed people. So like it's funny, even in your personal circle, if you will, or your churches or things like that, you run into all kinds of different people in the shed world.
You got Cook. I think they're in Anna, right?
Yeah,
I mean, they've been since the early 80s or maybe before then.
Yeah, I think their sign says 86 maybe, 86, but man, just the name like Cook. You know, I think I've told this story before, but whenever we were selling for Summit Portable Buildings, and I don't know when it changed from like sheds to like the word portable building became sort of, there's like this, you know, I'd love to
correct name for it.
Yeah, I'd love to kind of go back and like figure out who kind of started with that and what changed, but cook sheds is what everybody call them, because you know, like most of the time people just call them like outbuildings, like you know, all your local county. Like I know where I grew up, Pulaski County, they talk about, you know, it's an outbuilding, you know, the county commissioner there, and they said, well, you can have an outbuilding, but that was sort of synonymous with the name Cook Shed.
Right.
You know, like whenever we sold Cook, I remember we sold Summit, we had a guy come up to us and he was like, so what kind of sheds you got here? And I was like, sir, these are Summit Portable Buildings. And he said, man, I've never heard of a Summit Cook building. And I was like, no. It's like, you know, they got so stuck in their head that like any outbuilding is called a cook shed.
Yeah.
So like they did a good job branding, you know, like, and they've been around for a long time, and you know, seem to be. I know some friends that work there, and they seem to be a really good company. So.
Yeah. Same way. You know, when I was growing up, if you got a Coke, if you had an RC in the refrigerator or whatever, it's always, hey, go get me a Coke.
Give me a Coke.
Know? And nobody put that together. A Pepsi, RC is all Coke. You know?
Yeah.
So.
Well, Kleenex, Weed Eater.
Oh, yeah.
I got to go Weed Eat. You know, it's really a trimmer. We talk about branding and things like that, and maybe that'll segue into a good conversation here about Premier. I love their colors.
Oh, yeah.
I know a Premier building probably quicker than I know any other building, and kudos to you, who's been a big champion. I see you on the Shed Sales Professionals page. I see you on the Shed Haulers page, and you are always what I would call a excellent brand ambassador for Premier. Like, I'm trying to get you a pay raise here. I don't know what I can do, but like these guys, you know, like if you're always championing them, their quality and what they do.
Yeah. Well, and that was something that when I was at Graceland Portable Buildings, I always would tell people, hey, you know, I haul for everybody. When you're a hauler, you haul for all kinds of companies privately. Right. People want you to move their sheds.
Yep.
So you're able to see the quality of a building. You know, when you're hauling and you have, whether it's, you know, the building swaying or what the structure is, I mean, you know what buildings are made out of. And every hauler out there knows there's certain maybe buildings that you look at and you're like, I don't really want to haul that. You know, I've not had good experience with that. And so therefore, you know, when I first hooked up to a Premier portable building, it was a 8x12 or 8x16, and I was taking down power lines. You know, the building, you know, I couldn't believe that a 8x16 would be that tall, because every building that I'd hauled previously wasn't that tall. And I started thinking, hey, you know, because I was strictly a Graceland guy. Like, don't even talk to me about anything else. You know, that's my company I work for. Hey, they're my bread and butter. I love this company. And so I started looking at the construction of it. And man, you know, even the small buildings had 2x6s in the floors. You got 4x4s or two 2x4 sandwiches, double top plate, and super tall moisture. I mean, I was like, oh.
You became a fan. You became
fan.
I'm reading a book right now. I think I told you this. I'm reading for like the third time. I've listened to it on audiobook. I'm not saying I'm his biggest fan because I'm not. There's some things I agree with, things I don't, or whatever. I guess we all have that. But I'm reading a book by Grant Cardone called Sell or Be Sold. And he talks about, one of the things he does talk about is being bought in on your product, no matter where you're at. You know, you were bought in with you at Graceland, you were bought in your Premier, both great companies, sell good buildings. To me, you are the brand ambassador, or have become essentially for the company. But now, when you hauled down south in a lot of different areas.
Yep. So I always lived in Grace County area, and I hauled for Graceland Portable Buildings, like I said, for, you know, to say exactly, I'd be lying, but it was for many, many years.
Yeah.
And you know, I worked down there all week. I'd leave on Sundays, coming back on Saturdays, and probably 8 years, maybe 10 years, something like that.
Hello from the Shed Geek. Let's take a walk through My Shed 3D. With My Shed 3D, your company can simply add a 3D builder button to its website. Once the customer clicks onto the 3D builder button, they will enter some basic information to get started. Remember, this information is captured in your Leads tab, whether or not the customer designs a building. This is very valuable information that turns a cold call into a warm lead. Next, they begin the design of their shed by selecting a primary use, a style, and a size that best fits their need. My Shed 3D has multiple styles that are available and consistent with traditional and barn styles within the shed industry. However, if you offer a customized or non-traditional style, My Shed Solutions can build that design for future use. We can also save on some design features that make it easy to adjust without a major rebuild or added fees for design changes. For instance, want to offer a steeper roof pitch? Just navigate to the Settings tab. Then click the Building Models. Click Edit Building and just enter the new roof center height, and the design changes will reflect on this style option. This will save you thousands versus traditional design changes that need to build a whole new style to match your design. From here, simply choose the style, siding, and color. Then choose a trim and roofing style and color. Next, let's add a door. That was goofy. Next, let's add a door. It is required to add a door to move forward with the design, as at least one ingress-egress option is necessary. Then add some design changes for personalization. Maybe some windows, or a porch, or some interior shelving. Next, just click Save Design and the customer will receive an automated text with all the features of the design to the email address entered at the beginning. From here, they can edit the design, view the details of the design, pay now to order the shed, or click Rent to Own to complete the necessary steps to purchase a shed they designed with My Shed 3D. The design enters the admin panel as a quote, and this is where the manufacturer can update the progress of the design once a deposit is taken. My Shed, from design to delivery, we have you covered. We were there at the same time. We just didn't know each other.
We've crossed paths a lot of times.
We have.
You know, I've been all over Metropolis, been all over Southern Illinois.
Yeah.
You know, all over Paducah. I mean, use at Dippin' Dots. I was with R&L Carriers for a short time, going in the Dippin' Dots. So we probably have bumped shoulders.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
with each other, I would say. And the shed business has fortunately brought us together. And again, but yeah, and you know, we was talking about earlier. I guess we can kind of go to that area when we was doing the work in the tornado
relief. Yeah.
And doing the generators. And then that also got me into, you know, helping other people with generators. So I stayed there about a week after that. So,
yeah, so I just learned that today. So what a lot of people don't know is, like, you know, I don't know if I've told this story before or not, but it's a good time to tell it. Why not? I had a friend who posted that she needed a generator for a friend who had went through tornado damage. And I got one sitting in the garage, right? And it's unused. And I'm like, man, if I had loaned that out, I'll never get it back. Like selfishly, right?
Yeah.
Well, I guess that must have ate at my conscience because I got up the next morning and I was like, man, if that storm would have came 30 miles north, like that would have wiped out our little town. And it's like, well, I don't need this. So if I don't get it back. So I messaged her and she's like, they found one already. And then I felt even more bad. And a new Byler was in Metropolis that day. He had been through Mayfield that day and he had been at my house. So I messaged him and I messaged Kyle and I was like, hey, you guys want to, like, what do you think? Do you think we can come up with money? Matthew Dowdy was a former Graceland employee that I'd worked with, and he was working at the Tractor Supply there in Mayfield as GM. And I saw where they got like a shipment of 800 generators in. And I just like messaged them. I was like, why don't we try to raise some money for the shed industry? See if we can give away 5 or 10 generators. So that was me trying to overcome.
Right.
Like that was me trying to overcome my selfishness to not do one. It was like, I'm going to have to find a way to like reconcile that. So maybe if we can give 5 or 10 of them away. I think we raised like 25 grand in 24 hours and 50 within 48. And we were able to give away 50 generators.
Right. Yeah.
And you were helping us on that mission. You met us down there. We were going around. But then you guys took it farther. That's what's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like you guys took it farther. You were there for another 10 days giving away generators. Premier had pitched in and you were helping, with them. And I think Sam, put together a whole crew and they were building homes and rebuilding stuff and clearing brush. Wow. It's amazing how an idea snowballs. Mm-hmm. And I didn't stick around, admittedly. Like, hey, guys, I didn't stick around for any of that. I helped for 2 days and I had to get back to work. But how cool that, Yeah,
sure. And, like with us, I mean, it was it was personal with us because, like I said, we'd lost 3 properties. My grandmother's house, the house I grew up in, and the house my kids grew up in. So they was all gone. So, and you guys come in, and then that allowed me to get in with you guys. And then somehow, I don't even remember exactly how that happened, but somehow I got put in charge with, distributing all these generators. So, I was able to go out and talk to these people and lend a hand. So it just, it worked out great, And then, of course, Sam being there, in Metropolis, he showed up just in time.
Right.
Pardon the pun.
Yeah. No, that's right.
But he showed up and all of it just worked out great.
It did work out. It worked out good. We was able to run everything through the Shed Hauler Brotherhood because they were a nonprofit. And like, really, it was a God thing. It just, it worked out. And then, we were able to help a lot of people. Kyle even tweeted, I think I told you this, he tweeted to like Chip Gaines just on a whim. And he's like, hey man, why don't you donate to this? It's a good cause. And he actually reaches out, donates 10 grand, and people are like, what, Chip? And, we had heard a story from our buddy Travis Beachy down in Waco because he had done a building for Chip. Yeah. And he was like, I don't know how good of friends they were, but, and so like Chip's this big national celebrity. People love him. They understand what he stands for. He stands for, God and moving his kingdom forward. So like I was handing these generators out and I was like, Shed Geek, nobody know who Shed Geek is. Nobody cares. I like to tell people, I tell people I'm the Shed Geek, and between that plus a coin will get me on a bus. Most people don't care, but they knew who Chip was and like what he stood for. So I was handing these generators out, and I was like, "Hey, Chip Gaines bought this generator for you," because like I felt like that message would go farther. So like, dude, it was only 2 days, but it was a very impactful 2 days. You were there with us. And, you went on to do more and your company went on to see that and add value into it. And isn't that really what it's all about?
Oh, yeah.
The community was hurting. We can put down, we don't have to think about any of our differences, our competitiveness. Let's just go help.
You think about the influence of social media 15 years ago, even 10 years ago, something like that happened versus now. You're able to, there's GoFundMe, all these ways to donate, all these ways to get support. It's just like, there's a lot of good and bad, but man, there's exceptionally, I'd say the good outweighs the bad as far as, things like that. Even what we're doing right now, educational to people. Yeah. And like I told you, me and you talked for 2 hours, and I was thinking, man, everything I'm telling him, that's what I wanted to say on the podcast. You know? But, I don't try to come across as the guy that's been there, done that, because like I told you, there's a lot I haven't done. There's some sides of the shed business that I know nothing about. I wear my work boots every day because my entire life I grew up on a tobacco farm. I've worked in, over 100 acres of tobacco every year. I know what it's like to work. That's me. I like to get out and work. So the more, financial and the sales side of it, I wouldn't even have predicted 10 years ago that I'd be sitting here selling sheds. I said I would always be out doing the grunt work, the rough, hauling sheds or throwing block or, driving anchors or whatever it is. I'm going to be out in the sun,
Yeah.
And so, and I told you when I'm here, even at my lots, I'm always trying to be out either cutting grass, setting up buildings on blocks to try to make them look better, something outside. And like I told you, it seems like when you're outside and you're doing stuff and people see you outside, they're more apt to stop in and talk to you because they know you're real quick to pull in. You look at 2 gas stations on each side. One gas station will have all the people in the world. The next gas station, they never get business.
Yeah.
Accessibility. They're easy to pull. The one that gets all the business, easy to pull into.
That's 100% the reason
people want to pull in, get gas, pull out. They don't want to have to go across the bridge, turn left, and
you're just like me. You think just like me on that. If I'm going down whether I have to, if I'm going to have to turn left and go across traffic, I would typically go down to the next exit. But even if it's not an interstate, if I'm on a 2-lane road, I'm always going to pull off on the right side of the road. If I can help it, I'm not going to go across traffic, no matter how nice the gas station is. It's a weird thing with me. But
and that's even more for, shed haulers, especially wide load haulers, but even just your typical truck driver. We talked about Charleston, Missouri.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a truck stop here, truck stop across the road. This truck stop here is always packed. The one across the road is kind of hard to get into. It's a little bit, out of the way. Yep. You never see people there. I mean, I went across there for my entire life going back and forth, and you always seen people at the one on the south side of the interstate versus the north. And I think it's the same way. I think it's readily available for people. It's quick. And so when I'm out there working and stuff, and I'm out in front, people all the time, they'll pull off the side of the road. Hey, man, how much is that shit? Tell me. I get to tell them about it, They see me there. So it's just, that's a big thing for me. I'm not an indoors person either. So
being accessible, being visible too.
Yeah.
Which I think is what, a lot of your point is like people know you're open. Mm-hmm. They know you're there. Activity, like it feels like it breeds more activity.
Yeah.
If you're doing something, people just want to stop. You seem approachable.
Yeah.
Maybe because you're out here, you're landscaping, you're doing something with your buildings. You have an advantage over a lot of salespeople too. Now, I don't know if you have any like shed moving equipment or anything here that you keep on your lot or whatever to move your lot around, but you're able to do that if you had to. Like you have the knowledge of being able to, because you've built,
right?
You've hauled, now you're selling, and I kind of feel like that gives you, in my opinion, like a bit of a competitive advantage.
Sure.
Because like there's a lot of shed salespeople out there that I know that I've talked to have been like, I got to get my hauler here. Got to get them to move these buildings around. Right. Want this building to look a little bit better. And you're like, I feel like you're the kind of guy that'd be like, hey, forget that. I'm going to get out there and do that.
Right. Yeah. And when I set my displays up, I just had to go get block the other day. And I've got a shed that I said, man, we got a new color. It's natural clay. And it's a beautiful shed. I said, I want to put that up on blocks. I'm going to put some steps on it. I want to, and so, and the old me kicked in as far as setting the building up. I mean, I'm getting the blocks perfect, and I'm thinking, okay, if I got to put underpin in or I want to put lattice around this thing, that block needs to be in far enough. If a block sticks out, they're calling you and saying, hey, I need you to put these blocks in because you stuck them out too far.
Yeah. And
I learned that from experience. That's not something that the average, rep is going to know. Yeah. He's not going to know that, a customer calls him complaining and says, hey, the driver put my blocks out too far. And they're like, okay, just deal with it. It's not a big deal, but it is a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I tell my driver. I got great drivers, though. I'm a champion of my drivers. I got 2 great drivers. Couldn't ask for any better. And it works out great, And so they do it right. I see pictures.
Well, and they probably appreciate you based off your experience, your prior hauling experience, that like you said, you can be able to come to terms with the customer on some details that maybe would be missing otherwise.
You can tell the customers so they'll be ready. And a lot of these guys around here that work for other companies, they haul their own blocks, And I tell them, I say, look, I sell a lot of big buildings. And I said, we're not going to put a block on all 4 corners or whatnot. We're going to put blocks, we're going to space them out right, and we're going to do it right. We can't carry that many blocks on our truck, If you just need a couple of blocks for maybe a 10 by 12 shed or something, that's one thing. But, when you're buying a big cabin, They supply their own blocks. We do the rest. You just have them sitting there. I'll try to make it. I'll even help you. I'll help you find your blocks. I send them pictures of blocks. This is what you're going to need. This is why you're going to need it. All these things. And it strictly goes back to, we talked about, there is not really an academy. It would be nice if we could go to an academy for sheds,
Right.
But there's not.
Yeah.
And just about everybody in the shed business is come up the same way I did. They've either built, they've hauled, they've got something involved in it.
Right.
And that's our education. That's our hard knocks school.
That's right.
Is just doing the grunt work for all them years.
Introducing Shed Hub, your ultimate shed marketplace. Are you in the shed business and looking to connect with more buyers? Look no farther than Shed Hub. Shed Hub is a game-changing, two-sided marketplace that brings shed sellers and buyers together in one easy-to-use platform. Think of it as the Amazon of sheds. Shed Hub isn't just any ordinary marketplace. It's a powerhouse that ranks on the first page of Google's search results in 91% of U.S. cities. With over 1.2 million impressions on our website last month alone, Shed Hub is where you want to be to showcase your sheds to a wider audience. And here's the best part. For a limited time, you can join our exclusive Next 500 plan for just $39 per month. Simply head over to geek.shedhub.com to sign up and start attracting more shoppers to your shed listings. As the Shed Geek, I am here to endorse Shed Hub and invite you to join me on this journey to boost your shed business. Whether you're struggling with website visibility or simply want more eyes on your product, Shed Hub has got you covered. Don't miss out on this opportunity to supercharge your shed sales. Visit geek.shedhub.com today and make your mark in the shed industry with Shed Hub. Well, it might not be polished and book learning, but it's an education nonetheless, being able to have all the years of service and learning that. So,
well, this area here, it's more of it's mountain people.
Yeah.
Mountain people. They appreciate seeing me come out in work boots. So I'm like, hey, man, that's great. Because I couldn't be the guy that comes out in a shirt and tie. I just, and there's some people that do that, and that's awesome. I just can't be that guy.
Yeah.
It's just not me. And I think a lot of people here, they appreciate that, that I can relate with them, And I know what it's like to work. So I tell them, I say, look, if you're looking for me to close this deal, if you're looking for me to come up with some kind of, sales pitch or this, that, and the other, there is none. I said, but what I can tell you is that I have built, I have hauled, and I'm going to make sure everything's right for you. I know what it's like to work hard.
Yeah.
I know what it's like for me to buy something at, one of these big box stores, get it home, and 6 months later it tear up. I said, the last thing I want you to do is call me back in 6 months and say, hey, my building, man, it's the floor's messing up and this, that, and other. And I say, that's why I'm with Premier. I'm with Premier because I feel that we have the best product out there for the customer. I never have people call me back and say, my building, I never have. I can't tell you a repair that I've put in since 2018 to come out and fix a building, that a roof is leaking, anything. I can't, and
I love that you're such a honest brand ambassador for the company that you work with, man. I think you have to be sold on your product before you can sell your product.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that you have to be convinced that it is the best thing, because if you're not, you're going to have some, you're going to have some concerns and some questions in your own. You talked about something that, hey, I work hard. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to do that. And I feel like, maybe this isn't shed related, but man, how many things do we do in the shed industry that touches other stuff? And we talk about our faith here. We talk about all kinds of different avenues. And I want to go on a bit of a rabbit trail. Like, what do you think has changed? It's such an odd thing to hear anymore. Like, to me, you're the kind of guy that I remember, like, it seemed like in the 80s of growing up, there was still like a taking pride in your work, taking pride in your your image of like who you are as, you know, in your family, then also in your work. I mean, that's one of the first questions that men will ask each other whenever they sit together. If any conversation takes place for any period of time, it doesn't take long before you start asking, what do you do? Because we're almost judging, whether we admit it or not, we're almost judging that person on like what they do, right? You know, like, you know, you sit at a computer all day, like nerd, you know what I mean? Then like, hey, I'm a bit of a nerd, so I get it. I'm literally a geek, right? But it's kind of like, you know, there's, like you said, grunt work. I mean, I remember being in the military, you know, like the non-commission always made fun of the commission, and, you know, the commission was like, well, it don't matter because we're getting the big bucks. And, you know, but like, what's changed, Brian, like in society that like that's just not there. It seems to be missing, because it reminds me of like my dad, and it reminds me of like his friends. It's like there's a certain pride in our work.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, from, you know, it seems like anybody that's maybe 1990 and earlier, they get called boomers, or they get called that generation, or those people, you know. And so I don't want to come across as a boomer and say, hey, these kids these days, these kids, this, that. No. I do think there's a lot of stuff that that folks have to do, especially kids coming up, and the generation that this past 20 years has to deal with, and that is strictly social media, the internet. You look on a lot of things, and there's a lot of people, you know, well, you shouldn't work for this unless you get paid this. You shouldn't do this. It's always, you know, I shouldn't do this unless, it's more of an entitled or an entitlement mentality that seems that there wasn't back then. It was, hey, I'm willing to do anything there is, or maybe just do what I'm told. You know, I worked in tobacco. I think it was $4 or $6 an hour. You know, work day and night, $4 to $6 an hour. We run a hay crew, and maybe 5 cents a bale is what we made, 6 cents a bale. And, you know, it was tobacco and hay every summer. So, but I was an active kid, had a lot of energy, always looking to work to make money. We didn't have money. That was it.
Yeah.
We did not have money.
Yeah. You had to go make it.
I was considered spoiled back then, you know, because I got a new pair of tennis shoes at my birthday, which is in June, and Christmas. So my mother made sure I had, you know, shoes. And that was it. I mean, if I wore dress clothes, I wore the same shoes. You know, I had high top tennis shoes, you know, like Reeboks back then. And if I don't care what I wore them shoes.
Right.
And, you know, and I remember my grandmother and granddad, like, you're spoiled, you know. But, you know, we just didn't have a whole lot, so we worked for a lot.
Yeah.
But, you know, those were like, it never was a burden for me to hold a whole 10-acre field of tobacco or whatever. We loved doing it. We were very active. We worked hard. And it's just something that I think people nowadays, they're not as outdoors minded, maybe not as, I mean, I was in an agricultural area, so everybody worked. My friends worked. You know, if we wanted this phone, you know, when I say phone, not cell phone, I'm talking, we want a phone for our room, we worked for it. You know, back then we had what we call jam boxes, you know, the big radios and stuff. We worked for it. You know, it was no exception. Hey, Mom, I want a radio. Can you go get it for me? You know, well, you know, put that on your Christmas list, and we'll see if we can order it from the catalog. You know,
you remember free phone calls after 9 or weekends? Do you remember any of that? Like I remember that was a big thing for us. Whenever we were like, hey, we can't wait and talk to our, you know, certain people, because even within our area code, there was still it was considered long distance callings. Like, but after 9 o'clock, it was free. Yeah. It's like, I remember there was times that we would be like, well, I got to wait till after 9 o'clock to be able to talk because
I forgot
free.
about that. Yeah.
It's just little stuff like that is the same way. You know, I don't know if I've ever disclosed this on the podcast or anything, but like, you know, my parents, I feel like even know what that generation, you know, dealt with even more. My dad is one of 16. My mom's one of 9.
Oh yeah.
You know, like she's the only girl out of 9. Know. You know what I mean? Like, so like she's tough. You know what I mean? Like she had to take on 8 brothers, and she was like next to the youngest. So, they definitely, neither one of them graduated high school. There was not like, I always was amazed when people talk about college. You know what I mean? And that kind of lifestyle. I was like, I don't even know what that means. We just didn't hear that talk growing up. But we sell a product. I don't know if you call it an agricultural product, but we sell an outdoor product. We sell storage. We sell something that goes in your backyard, or maybe you sell carports or whatever. I don't really know. But, you know, it helps to kind of have some of that mindset to be able to understand your customer and relate to them a little bit, I think.
I learned real quick that I think everything's inside of a person. And when I say that, there was a kid when I was in Kentucky there that went to my church, and he was very smart. He did not strike me. As a matter of fact, when I would be driving a truck in the morning when I worked for R&L Carriers, him and his dad would pass me going to Calvert City, and they worked at a plant there. He was always asleep. They'd pass me almost every morning. He was sound asleep. So when he came to me and wanted a job building, I was like, I'm going to help him out, but it's probably not going to work out.
Yeah.
Listen, he was a heavy set guy. He was a book smart guy. He never struck me as the kind of guy that would be a hard worker. But, his parents raised him right. Mm-hmm. And they raised him to, hey, if you get a job for somebody, if they hire you, you don't own that company. You work for him. So don't go in and start telling him all these things that you need him to do. You go in and do what you say. And I think that's the difference now and then. Not with everybody, but he came in, and I'm telling you, that guy, out of 8 workers, he outworked everyone. I would sit back sometime. I would sneak over there and just watch him.
Yeah.
And he would work by himself late at night because we worked all night over there. When I was at Dirksen, we worked all night long because a lot of times we had jobs during the day.
Yeah.
So we was just making extra money. And he was busy as a bee, and he did it right, and he worked hard. And that put me in a point where it made me realize then that you cannot look at somebody and profile them and tell whether they're going to work hard or not.
Yeah.
A lot of times if you shake someone's hand, I would always judge if they didn't have rough hands.
Yeah.
I say, hey, that's a city boy, or that's an office boy or whatnot. This, that, and the other. But that wasn't the case with him. He didn't have rough hands, but he did after he was done working for us.
Yeah.
And I was really proud of him, and that changed a whole lot. I realized that it's just in a person's heart whether how hard they work or not.
I don't think you're just building sheds whenever you're doing that. I think you're building character as well too,
no
during the process. So you got somebody?
That's my daughter there. We gotta pick the granddaughter up today.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So
Okay.
later on today, so you gotta have a pass. So she's there.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Well, tell me about Premier a little bit. One thing that is kind of noticeable for me immediately is that Premier's kind of taken the lead on, in my opinion, getting into not just shed sales, which is excellent, but they're not transitioning. I don't think you could maybe if you're being a brand advocate for them, maybe you can speak for them here. But trailers.
Oh yeah,
dude. What is the deal with trailers? Because I see them like everywhere now.
Big time. Well, yeah. So Premier Trailers is I'd say it started really coming on 4 years ago, maybe. I forgive me if I can't remember exactly. Our age, 2 months is what a year used to be. So
right.
It may have been longer than that. I don't know.
Right.
Kyle McCord is he's been kind of the mastermind in all that, and I'm telling you, he's taken the trailer business with Premier, and Tyson and Sam and all them guys have just all worked together. But it seemed like Kyle is he's the more spokesperson for it, kind of the I would say, and again, forgive me if I'm wrong on this, but kind of the mastermind behind getting all that together and stuff. But man, what they've done with the trailers is, if you go to Fulton and you go to their location, their facility, it's pretty amazing. And no way transitioning from sheds to trailers, but to give somebody an opportunity, which never before, and you're talking about the difference between now and then, nobody would have ever RTO'd a trailer.
Right.
And I would say that people in the beginning was like, that's crazy. People tell me, how in the world do you RTO a trailer? Somebody to come in here and they leave with a trailer.
Digital Shed Builder is an online shed configurator that strives to provide incredible visual quality, fantastic customer service, and an amazingly low price point, making it a perfect fit for any shed dealer looking to increase their online sales. Digital Shed Builder is simple to use, taking less than 5 minutes to integrate on your site. The Get a Quote feature streamlines your sales process, showing you exactly what your potential customers need. They offer a highly customizable experience that accurately represents your brand and unique shed offerings, working with you directly to set up everything you need in a configurator. With no extra startup cost, no lengthy contracts or commitments, and no hidden fees, Digital Shed Builder has been created with quality, simplicity, and affordability in mind.
And as you and me both know, with sheds, it's hard to get somebody to come and take a shed and haul it away, without finding out. That's a little bit bigger thing. With a trailer, it's a sticky situation. So you've got to really be smart. You got to run your business right, or you're going to have thousands and thousands and thousands of trailers out there. You have no idea where they are.
Yeah.
And so to be able to do that is allowing people, to come in. They got to haul something to get a trailer right then. And that's what we've done. We've made it accessible for anybody to come in, and just like portable buildings, for anybody, we got our 12 by 40s are $250 down, not the first month's rent up. They're $250 down today. Your first month's due 30 days later.
Yeah.
A lot of people said you can't do that. There's no way you could do that. We do it, and it works. And it's worked for me since I've been here. And, that's what I get excited about, And a lot of people's like, man, that it's killing us, or it would kill us to do that, but it don't with us. And same way with trailers. We make them affordable for people. And these are good trailers. I could take you out and show you these trailers.
Yeah.
They're good built trailers. They're not cheap trailers that they're putting out.
Yeah.
They're building high, and that's Premier. That is our brand. I tell everybody, that's my brand, okay? Everybody's got to have a brand. You have to stand out in some way.
Yeah.
We don't do fancy. We don't do shutters, the flower boxes. We don't do the fancy railings. We build strong buildings. We build strong trailers, and that's our brand. And I put that out to everybody, and I can show you. I'll tell people, I say, I'm going to show you. And I told you, I'm not in the business to run other companies down.
Right.
I never, when a customer comes in, say so and so does this, so and so does this. I show them what we got.
Yeah.
So then, and I give them a checklist, and when they leave, they can compare, and I'm confident that 80% will be back.
Yeah.
And so, same way with trailers, same way with buildings. They're high quality, easy to access, or easy accessible, or affordable, and
I love it, dude.
Yeah, and you can tell I'm passionate about it because these people come in here and they're doubtful when they come in.
You have to be.
Yeah, they're doubtful.
If you're showing doubt in this, and that's we was talking about this yesterday, and I'm so sad if this podcast never comes to air and we have to redo it. Like, Lord help me, I hope we can find this SD card. I've been stressing about it for 24 hours now. No, and also because it was such a good podcast. But one thing he mentioned on it was like he remembers whenever RTO came even to the shed world, and he was like, man, got laughed at, made fun of almost pretty much, that like, what, people are going to be able to take these buildings and just pay for them on payments. They're not going to have to pay for them outright. So like someone has to be a visionary. Someone has to be a creator. Someone has to be the one to go out and first mover's advantage, take the chance, make it happen. Yeah. And, and then what so much of the shed industry is good at is like following suit, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
We're I guess are we a copycat industry, or is it just that way everywhere?
Even more
I don't know.
With Facebook and social media. Like I said, I got Facebook in 2018, but it was just strictly to sell. It was more 2020, 2019, 2020 that I kind of really started getting into different stuff, trying to really market and stuff. And I remember the first time when I posted an ad, and man, like 30 or 40 people commented on it. And I called my rep. I said, man, can you believe that? Like 20, they tell me they're interested in my stuff. I knew nothing, I knew newspaper ads.
Yeah.
In West Kentucky, we have VCI.
Yeah. I remember VCI Classified.
I was VCI fan,
Is that still around? Dude, I used to get on that all the time.
I think so. If I needed to find every side-by-side four-wheeler I bought was off VCI.
That's great, dude. I have not heard that in 10 years. Just the fact that you mentioned that right now is a pleasant memory for me, because I was on that site all the time.
Yeah, and I downloaded, there was an app at, I think it's changed now, but I cannot think what it was, but I would advertise on that app. I'd get 100 promises and stuff. Nobody ever show up, Oh, it's so disappointing, I mean, I had all these names. I was excited, man.
For a salesperson, for a new salesperson, those are particularly the emotional part of sales that you're just not prepared for, not equipped for if you get into this for the first time. And sheds may be your first exposure to that.
Yeah.
But how true is it to be like, oh my goodness, these guys said they're going to run to the bank and they're going to bring money back now.
Oh, yeah.
I remember staying late.
Oh, yeah.
Because there was a guy that said he was running to the bank right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like this guy was just a perfect troll. Like, he must have been trolling me completely because he's like, I'm actually going to the bank right. How late are you open? Oh, man, I'll be here till 5, but I'll stick around, if you need me to. And 6 o'clock comes and you're like, this guy got me, didn't he? That's that emotional part of sales. And you're like, oh, no, what did I do wrong? What happened? Or
I'll tell you a funny story is I kept having this guy come up here. Super nice guy. I could tell he had a good head on his shoulders, asking me about my buildings. I mean, drilling me about my buildings, And I'm thinking, this guy, he's probably going to buy. He's going to be a repeat customer. And so, this went on for like 6 months, stopping in, asking me, wanting to see brochures and this, that, and, everything else. And so, it went on, like I said, around 6 months. Well, I didn't see him for a long time, for about a year. One of the local companies around here, the owner of that company actually stopped in and talked to me. And he was, inquiring. He said, hey, man, I like the way you do things. I like the way you set up buildings. He said, you've been real impressionable. He said, would you consider coming in and working for us? I'd like, and, I told him right off the bat, I'm a premier guy. Like, I love my company. Well, just come talk to us, this, that, and the other, Well, I didn't go and talk to him, but they also sell swing sets, and I wanted to get a couple. They got real nice swing sets, the gliders and all that.
Yeah.
So I knew, and one of my friends worked for him, so I messaged him and I said, hey, where do y'all sell the swing sets? Do you have any? Because he owns a dealership also. I said, no. He said, no, we don't have any here, but you can go up to the plant. So I go up to the plant, walk inside the main plant. The guy that had been coming for 6 months and asking me all these questions, he worked at the front desk of that company, so he'd been coming. So that was really disappointing. And he just kind of like shook my hand. He's like, he apologized to me, He said, look, man, he said, I was just sent on a mission. He said, don't blame me. I was sent on a mission, But that's something, that happens to everybody. There's no telling how many people have come in here and have worked for other companies just trying to get, And so, and I'll go out on Sunday sometime and see what the competition is. Again, not to run them down, but just to see the points that I can magnify about my company that maybe I see that they're missing. So I know when I magnify it, and I make that checklist to customers. This is what we do. And when I do that, I know they're going to go elsewhere and they're going to ask those questions and hopefully they'll be back, But the reason, you asked me earlier, the reason I'm so passionate and, I'm a spokesman for my company is because I couldn't give water away to a thirsty man. I have not been able to sell anything my entire life. I could put a truck out there and just about have to pay somebody to take it.
Yeah.
I come here and the buildings, the quality of these buildings, they sell themselves. All you got to do is point it out.
Yeah.
That's it. It's pretty easy to me. You know?
Well, you believe in it, and it's whenever you believe in it,
it's
it's natural, it's easy. You're not having to stress or struggle to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No, I've watched you for couple of years being a brand ambassador, and I feel like you're the loudest voice for Premier. And like I said, I'll try to get you paid a little more. I don't know, but you have done well. You have done well, and it was nice to met you in so many other just small circumstances, and I really think that's awesome about our little small industry. Where so many different paths cross in some of the smallest stuffs. Where do you think it's going, man? Where do you think like the shed industry is going? Will we see more products like trailers or like other things come to be? Will we see larger national brands, acquisitions? I don't know. What's the future hold, man? In
that area, I heard that RTO vehicles were coming along. I don't think it worked out really well. I think that's an area that somebody would really have to be. Really have to be sharp to make that work with vehicles.
I've got there's a couple of guys that's been in the RTO world that I know of that have also jumped into the vehicle world, and I actually know a vehicle guy who's been in it for years, 30 years or more, who also sold sheds. I mean, him kind of talk somewhat regularly, and he's like, man, I had a nice little buy here, pay here going until the shed RTO guys jumped into it, and he said kind of changed up my everything I was doing, and it seems like they've gotten out of it as quick as they've gotten into it, though.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Premier has evolved in just information that we take down and the way that we do the business that kind of guarantees us, hey, if this don't work out with this trailer, with this shed, you know, we're going to get that building back. That you know, we're going to get the trailer back, whatever, if it don't work out. And you've got to have that safety net. And if you're going into a company and you're going to be in RTO or, you know, whatever finance or whatever you're in, you've got to have some way to recover your property. I mean, that's got to happen, or you're going to fail. And, you know, like I said, I think we have a great system that allows trailers to you know, be as popular with us as they are. And as far as asking, you know, where it's going, and you look at AI now, I never heard of AI.
Yeah.
You know, I've heard of artificial intelligence, you know, but I haven't. You hear AI everywhere now. Yeah. And my brother actually, he actually works for Blue House Rentals. I give a shout out. His name's Cody Escher. Works for Blue House Rentals in Fulton there. He sent me some links to a couple of websites where these people are creating music through AI and selling it to Spotify. They got their music. They're not even people.
Yeah. He
follows a group, and they got awesome music. They're not even people singing, not even people playing. It's all artificial.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, I'm a songwriter. I play. I'm like, hey, look, I don't have the best voice, but I'm sure I could find some kind of AI on there maybe to sing my songs and stuff, you know. And so with that being said, where's that going to take us in the shed business, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, you just don't know. I mean, Elon Musk was saying the other day, like, if I told you everything about AI, it would absolutely scare you.
Yeah.
You know, so who knows? I never would have thought that I'd be on a Facebook podcast 10 years ago. Like I said, I didn't get Facebook until maybe 5 years ago. So,
yeah.
So, you know, who knows in 10 years from now? I'm excited about it. You know,
well,
I hope I'm selling sheds when I'm seeing. A lot of people want to retire. I hope I'm selling sheds. I love doing this. It's like retirement for me. When you do something that you love, it's really, they say it's not work. It's still work, but you just enjoy it, you know?
Yeah. Well, if I gave up every single thing that I do, like the last thing I'd want to give up is podcasting. I mean, I enjoy this so much that I'm even looking at, hopefully if it would work out, and I have to be patient and figure out if it will. But if so, even doing some podcasting, even outside the shed industry, not because I don't love the shed industry, but just finding the things that you're passionate about. And one thing I've been talking about doing is like, a more localized podcast for like our community. Because I believe that, podcasting is just that. To me, it's small and it's niche. Broadcasting is a totally different thing. So like, I didn't expect to be talking to people all across the states, but it's kind of set a journey up for me and my family. We go out and get podcast in the RV, and we come back home and we edit and do all this stuff. It's weird, but yeah, like AI, like, I mean, if you'd have told me I was going to be doing this, so who else knows what we're going to be doing? But in our marketing world, we've begun to see the impact of AI and what it can do. And,
Hello, today we're going to take a look at iFab's component saw system. So we're utilizing a DeWalt Chop Saw. We've put it on sliders, easily to adjust. We've automated it using pneumatics so that we can run all these saws together using one actuator. We can either actuate with a two-hand safety control here or a foot pedal. The two-hand safety control comes with board clamps here, so to clamp in your board so you're totally hands-free. We've got digital readout up here to find your angle as well as your length. So we have a 90-degree saw here for your super long angle cuts. We've also got a conveyor on this system to take away your cutoffs. This system is completely modular. We can add as many saws as you need. The rails can be as long as you need.
For more information, visit www.ifabllc.com.
One of my favorite examples as a perfect example, guys, and I hate to burst your bubble if you're listening to this and you thought I was just this smart. Sometimes artificial intelligence maybe is better than like real intelligence. I don't know, but show notes. Like I do a description for every single show. We'll put in there on this one, like, hey, this was, Brian Cope at Patriot Buildings, sells for Premier, to go through all of these details. When we record this and we upload it into our hosting site, there's actually a transcript, and we have to go through and correct that transcript. So like you could go read the transcript if you want, we have to just be really careful about it because AI hasn't caught up to certain things yet. Like, a good example is every time the word shed comes across, for some reason, it will occasionally change it to something else. Use your imaginations, if you will. And we have to change that because we don't want that to be going out branded from us. We're not actually typing out the transcript of everyone. AI is doing it, and then we go in and try to fix it because we don't want that coming across to something we said. But when we put it out there, we want it to be clean. Beyond that, the show notes. Like, I will put show notes in, and it'll say, like, here's Brian, this is what he does, blah, blah, blah. I used to write those myself. I'd actually take the time, write them myself. And while sometimes it sounds more personal, I've noticed that we signed up for a service where AI generates those automatically. And it sounds so much more poised. It sounds so much better. It just works so much nicer. It says everything I want to say because I type it out in my words. Right. And then it what I like to call it, churches it up a little bit. Right. It cleans it up. It makes it look better. It does, you know what I mean? Exactly, it does a better job of my what I'm trying to portray. And I actually got for those of you listening on the call-in lines in the Anabaptist world, the Amish communities who call in and listen to the podcast, I actually got a call from an Amish listener, friend of mine, and he said, "Man, I don't know what you've been doing." This is about the time I changed over from writing the description myself to letting AI do it. And he said, "I don't know what you've been doing to the descriptions, but I always read the descriptions and I make a determination on if I want to listen to the show or watch the show based off of what you write. And your writing skills have just really improved all of a sudden because the stuff you're writing makes me want to go listen to every podcast now where I didn't before." And I told him, I said, I know that Amish is sometimes synonymous in the English world with being technical. And I don't think that's the case. I think it's just, they're concerned about how it has an effect on us. And I was like, oh, believe me, in the English world, we're concerned about those things too. But I said, actually, that's AI writing it. I'm writing it in my words, but they're taking it and doing it as more justice. Yeah. And he's like, oh, I didn't realize that. So it's full circle. It's become a really cool story about what else is it going to do? I mean, it's not just making AI pictures of your buildings, not just taking an AI voice and creating it for your songs.
Right.
But I mean,
the sky's the limit.
Oh gosh, the political scene.
Yeah.
I could go probably on a big rant.
Oh yeah.
It's affecting our world, good and bad. And the truth is, like, my son's a super techie type of kid, and I tell him we need people who understand it well.
Oh, certainly.
Who don't mean to use it for harm.
Right.
So, I told him, I said, the more you can learn about it, the better, because in 10 years, it's going to be a big job, a big opportunity for you. So.
Oh, no doubt. And, even now, if you get on, social media, especially TikTok, you've got a well-known social media influencer with 1 million followers. Mm-hmm. They have her up there speaking about a product, okay? And they're at a far enough distance where you can't see their lips moving, but AI has copied their voice, their accent,
right?
And they are promoting this company that they have nothing to do with.
Yeah, it's not even them.
It's not even them. And, people are buying stuff because they think that she, he or she's promoting these things.
Yeah.
Especially health, healthy things. Well, it could be anything, but I've noticed it in the health field. So, yeah, I think, again, we're circling back to how in 10 years, I think that's going to be a big part, and how you adapt to it, I think is going to absolutely affect, how well you're doing 10 years from now.
That's why, influence. So we got a little bit of time. We probably need to wrap up here soon, but influence. So I run from the word influence. Typically, most that know me personally know in my personal life, I'm actually much more introverted than what people realize. Like, me and my wife are very private people.
Right.
However, I'm on this public podcast, and my intentions was to go out and promote other people, talk to other people, get their thoughts, opinions, and things like that. We've somehow become sort of like this brand ourselves, in the industry, and that's cool, and that's awesome, and it's exciting. But I run from the word influence. Like, anytime somebody calls you a person of influence, I'm like, I I don't want that to be a negative thing. Right. Because but we get influenced everywhere. Why do we want Google reviews? Me and you were talking about that before we got on the air. Like, why do we want Google reviews? Because Google reviews help to influence. Right. Why do we want referrals? Because your neighbor can help you, can help influence you on where to go buy a building. You know, like you talk to your friends all the time and you're like, oh man, you just bought a new smoker. Got to try out this new smoker.
Right.
This thing's excellent.
Oh, yeah, I've already posted it. I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Next thing you know, I'm like, hey, I like Brian. I trust Brian. Brian says this is a good smoker. I'm probably going to go get that smoker. Right.
Yeah. You can look at it smoking out there now.
Yeah.
It's blaring. I'm excited. I'm like, hey man, we got to wrap this up. I got a Boston butt on the grill. We got to wrap this thing up.
It's so but I typically run from it, but it is true. And now all of a sudden they're using it in a negative way, you know, to promote, you know, like, hey, let's put this person's face on there, but it's really just an artificial. And then, you know, unless there's like some damage repair that you can do there's got to be like some kind of like walking that back. Yeah. It's complicated because, you know, one person says, well, I saw this person promoting it. And the next time it's like, no, that's not actually how they feel. And how do we know the truth?
Yeah. How do you know the truth? And, you know, it's same again from when I first started Facebook till now, there's a lot of fact checking, you know, and fact checking is good. You got to have, I mean, it needs to, as long as it's not one sided, you know, I feel like a lot of it's one sided. Yeah, exactly. And, you know, as long as it's, like you said, non-biased, both sides, I think it's good. You know, I think it's good. You know, there's a lot of, we deserve to know if it's false. Somebody says it in it. So that's good.
Where are we at whenever we can't even come to like what the truth is?
Yeah.
Because like, you know, now it's not even like the truth. It's like my truth, your truth. And exactly. I'm like, what does that mean? Like truth is just truth. And
everything's questioned.
So it's kind of like, it's one of those things where like we at least have to have a center to work off of so that we can all, you know, I love these conversations. And I don't know how Shed related they are. We probably need to wrap up soon. A couple things. First, one, anything that you want to share, shout outs, anything that you just want to put out there before we go, feel free to.
Yeah. You know, I just say, you know, and again, I'm still a novice as a salesperson. Like I said, my whole life I've been a worker. I would say to any sales rep out there, you know, just, and you know, I've learned that sometimes the best person to teach somebody is somebody that just learned it themselves, besides the guy that's been doing it 30 years, you know. So I would say to them is build a dream for somebody. When somebody comes in, make it your point to build, you know, create their dreams, ask them what they're going to be doing with it, and try to be creative and help them see their dreams. Mm-hmm. And then whenever you're showing them whatever product you've got, whatever it is, you need to somehow let them relate and show them and give them a vision of their dream. And that's what I do with every single person. If it's a shed, if it's just storage building or whatever, I try to present it at their place, putting stuff in it. I mean, you know, what do you like to do? I like to ride motorcycles, man. This shed here would be great. You know, you try to create their dreams. And again, hard work, faith, be honest, and be passionate about if you can't be passionate about your company, get with a company you can be passionate with. Yeah. Because I'm passionate about my company. I believe in them, and, you know, I'm here to stay. So I guess that's about the only encouragement.
I love it. Any questions that you have, I always tell people, or at least I have been for the last 6 months or so. Is there any questions you have for me? Podcasting related, shed related, just anything that's on your mind? In full transparency, I love to answer as best I can. If you don't, that's fine. If you do, go for it.
I would just say, I would ask, you know, what you think that you see is the best all around, you know, I guess you would say idea that, you know, you travel everywhere. Mm-hmm. If you was going to give advice to us, you know, as dealers, as, you know, being in the shed industry, of course, right now I'm asking you because I'm a dealer. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, you know, if I was a shed hauler, I would say, hey, you know, what do you think about hauling sheds? But you go to dealers, you go mostly to dealers and companies and stuff. What advice would you give that you see, that you say, hey, you've pulled away from places. This works. This is great. I love this idea. But if you put it all together, what would you think?
It's a bit of a selfish answer, if you don't mind. And I'll answer that by saying, you know, I heard a sermon recently that said, you know, and I posted this on Facebook, God doesn't give you the chair. He doesn't give you the bench. He doesn't give you that, you know, TV stand over there. He gives you the tree. Mm-hmm. you gotta figure it out from there. He gives you what you need. It doesn't necessarily give you everything that you want. There's some work that's required in that. There's a reason I tend to try to get into the things I'm getting into. There's a reason why I've got my eye on finance. There's a reason I got my eye on marketing, because I feel like just my own area of expertise, if you will, is like listening to people, listening to them and listening to what they want. The only reason the podcast exists today is because I listened to a customer. I was an RTO rep asking questions and trying to figure out what they want. And the one thing that he said is like, where can I get more resources, information? I need more knowledge in the shed industry. I can't get it. And I was like, man, we're going around time from place to place talking to all these people. Why don't somebody record this and put it out there to be helpful? Right. So like, there's a reason why I'm going into those directions, because I do think that some of those things can or will be part of the future. I think COVID, years are over. Easy money's gone, right, and you got to find a way to ramp it up. And sometimes that means you got to spend some money to make money. But I think that those that are going to begin to take a lead in the industry, they're going to be dedicated to their craft. They're going to be at their lots. I think they're going to be investing in themselves. And this is a shameless plug, but this is something that we use all the time in our marketing conversations, is I say, we're supposed to be making you more money than we're costing you. We're an investment just like a trailer is to haul sheds. We're an investment like a 2x4 is to build sheds. Like marketing is an investment to be able to make more money. If we're not making you more money, then we're not doing a good job.
Right.
So like, I believe in these things. I believe that, the way that you believe in your company, I believe that much of these things are the way of the future. So there's a reason why I wanted to invest into these things, because it does help us to be more financially stable. But at the end of the day, the podcast is still my heart. It's just, This is still what I love to do. If you ask me what gives me satisfaction, it's this. Right. Those things are a means to an end. Are you a dealer who sells multiple products at your shed lot? Are you tired of sifting through clunky or overcomplicated softwares to simply sell a product? If so, it's time to call Cal. Consumer Aligned Logistics is the affordable, simplified, and scalable solution for your shed, carport, or even RTO company. We are partnered with Idea Room and Shed Pro for configurators and have multiple RTO partners to choose from JMag to Heartland to Shed Geek Rentals and Scott's RTO. And if your partner isn't listed here, just ask. We are happy to add more. Give us a call at 425-359-3279 or visit calcanhelp.com. That's CALCANHELP.com.
Do you see something at a similarity in every lot that you go to when you see a lot that looks like, hey, they're doing well versus a lot looks like they're struggling? Would you say that there's one thing that you notice with them versus the ones that you feel that's struggling?
I don't think this is always the case, so it's not fair, and I've been really hesitant in 4 years to mention it on the podcast, but I question the idea of where the consignment dealer is going to be at some point, because, every product you go and purchase out here is on a net 30, net 90, or some kind of floor plan or something. What concerns me the most is whenever a dealer becomes a dealer and they get $200,000 worth of inventory brought in for free. They don't hardly invest much of their self. Matter of fact, as a sales rep, those of you who are going through this, you'll hear this and you'll understand it. You almost got to convince some companies whenever you show up, like, hey, they're a body shop. They got 10 acres of spot. Hey, you want to make some extra money? What's the catch? What's the catch? The catch is bring you $200,000 worth of inventory. The question is, are you going to take the time to understand how rent-to-own works? Are you going to sell it the right way? Are you going to be a professional salesperson? You know what I mean? Like, are you going to promote my product? You're all in.
Right.
You're all in. And I don't know what your arrangement is here, and it doesn't matter. We don't have to talk about it. What I'm saying is I get concerned about the guys who are like, I have no investment. And then at the drop of a hat, the company makes them mad. And then they go and they call up the other guy.
Right.
And guess what? Unfortunately, the other guy is like, oh, XYZ company couldn't take care of you. Well, we'll take care of you. We'll bring you even more buildings.
Right.
And like, I feel like if we do that, it's just a matter of time before they're upset. So like, you need bought in people.
Right.
I don't care if they're consignment. I don't care if they're, you need bought in people. And you can tell when you show up to a lot, if they're bought into their product and they're bought into this industry, or if it's a side gig for them. And if it's a side gig for you, I don't know that you're going to yield the best results, represent the industry the best. So like I tend to be, I don't know if there's one thing that I could pick on, Brian, to say, you know, obviously the way you display your lot, yourself, all of those things. But what really matters is not that you wear cowboy boots and jeans and that he wears, you know, nice shoes and a suit coat. Those things are important to me. But what really matters is, are you bought in?
Right.
Are you bought in? Do you treat it like you own it? Do you become a sub owner of the company and you have their best interest in mind because your best interest for them is going to yield the best interest for yourself as well too.
Correct.
So like that's my thought. Yeah. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. It's just kind of what comes to my mind is you have to be bought in, and you can tell whenever a dealer is or not.
A lot of companies, you know, I think they depend. Or your bigger companies depend on the representative or the reps in that area to start the new lots. And a lot of times I feel, and I'm not a rep, so I'm not speaking for the rep, but just from seeing things around the country, you know, for hauling up north, down south, everywhere. It seems like that a lot of people that have shed dealerships, lots, they got something else going on.
Yeah.
So that simply tells me that the rep is pulled in and says, hey, like you said, do you want to make some extra money? Well, they're already invested 100% in their car dealership or whatever it is. Yeah. And so are they really going to, like I said, go all in? I think the more it would be harder for a rep to actually find somebody that says, hey, I just want to do this. And this is going to be and that's hard to get somebody to do that. But I think you could find some, because that's what I mean, you know, I was hauling at the time and I had a dealership. So I said, hey, if that doesn't work out, you know, I can still haul. I know I can make money hauling, you know, but I was all in because if I didn't sell, I didn't haul. Yeah. So therefore I was 100% in. So I think you just got to, you know, and I think it would be hard. I don't know how that, you know, like, you know, a person could go about it. But if you found somebody, this is their bread and butter, you know, is this company going to be their bread and butter or just their 10% of their income? Yeah. If you can find those people that's going to be dedicated and say, this is how I feed my kids, I think they'll produce for you.
Depends on your business model for sure. So much, you know what I mean? It depends on your business model. And that's just that. That's where, if I'm being honest with you, an opportunity for consultation. Yeah. You know, like, you know, I believe that there's a great opportunity in this industry for the next 10 years in consultation. You know, like we're basically consultative sales whenever we approach our RTO marketing or finance or anything like that. We like to take the time, speak to the customer, think about long term. So, you know, for me, but I don't own a consultation business, but I think it's completely plausible for somebody to have massively wild success in this industry because people do have questions. So like even whenever I get them from traveling, I'm like, hey, I'm going to give you my best guess. I'm going to give you what I think, you know, but ultimately it's like leading a horse to water. Like you're the one who's got to drink. Right. You're the one who's got to figure out how deep am I going to go? How hard am I going to go in this? So like, I love having these conversations. It's almost reminiscent of something that we would talk about off the air. We're hour 7 in. It goes way faster than ever expected.
Yeah, what else am I going to say after we talk for 2 hours? You know.
Yeah, we could. Like I tell people all the time, like these conversations could go on and on and on and on, and we got to stop somewhere. Appreciate you. I'll tell you what I do want to find out. I don't know what I got to do. Who do I got to pay around here? Get one of those nice looking Premier hats.
You tell me.
You got one?
This is it right here.
you got one? If you got one, hey, look.
Brett Hoskins, if he's listening to this when it comes out, we need some hats. We need some Premier hats.
That's a sharp looking hat, dude. And I'm sitting here looking at my hat.
Hey, this shirt. Check his shirt out.
Oh no, I know. You guys brand well. Oh yeah. Like you always have. I always like your colors. I'm sitting here looking at my hat, and I'm going, man, I think their hat looks better than my hat, and like. That's not good from a marketing perspective, but it looks sharp, dude. Man, I love it.
Yeah, they got some good stuff. Premier's great all around. Like I said, I'm a Premier guy. I'm not just saying that because we're on here. Everybody knows. Everybody around here knows I'm a Premier guy. You know.
Appreciate your brand loyalty and appreciate you being on the show. We better let these people go, and we need to get back to work.
So. Hey, I appreciate you coming, and just like I said, thank my company and thank all those that, that has helped me through the years to come up. And I appreciate everybody.
You got it, man. Talk to you soon.
Hey, this is Mo Lunsford in sunny Union Grove, North Carolina, and it's coming up on Thanksgiving. And we just want to say thank you for listening to the show, and thank you to all the guests.